I opened a noodle shop with one signature policy: unlimited noodle refills. At first, it was simple. I wanted people in the old district, folks working long shifts for short pay, seniors counting out coins at the register, to be able to walk out with a warm stomach. $10 for a plain bowl. Refills as long as you needed. No shame. No questions. It didn't make me rich. But it earned me something better: respect. Until Brenda showed up. In my last life, she came in with 6 children and ordered a single bowl. Then she demanded refill after refill, 18 in total, treating my shop like a free buffet. When I tried to explain, gently, that the policy was meant to help people who truly needed it, not to feed 7 people on one order, she flipped the entire situation on its head. She pulled out a phone that looked newer than mine and hit record. "Look at this, guys," she shouted, already performing. "They've got unlimited refills on the sign, but now the moment my kids try to eat, the owner's giving me attitude." Her voice climbed higher, louder, more dramatic, like she was auditioning for a role. "You think because I'm a single mom I'm easy to push around? We're struggling, aren't we human too?" And right on cue, the kids started crying like they'd rehearsed it. That clip went viral overnight. 1 minute, I was the neighborhood noodle lady. The next, I was a villain on everyone's feed. My business pages got flooded with 1-star reviews from people who'd never even been here. My phone rang nonstop: insults, threats, strangers telling me I deserved whatever came to me. The very next day, a group of guys swaggered in like they owned the place. They ordered 1 bowl each and camped at my tables for hours, scaring off my real customers. When patrol cars rolled by, they smiled and acted harmless. When the police left, they went right back to smirking, taunting, daring me to say something. I finally did. I stepped up, told them they couldn't do this, told them to leave. They shoved me hard enough that my back hit the floor. Then everything turned into a blur of pain, noise and laughter, boots, curses, the scrape of chairs on tile, my own breath turning thin. The last thing I heard before the world went dark was someone sneering like it was a punchline. "Just a noodle flipper thinking she can mess with our influencer." That's when I understood the truth. Brenda wasn't just a struggling mom. She was an influencer with a script, someone who manufactured outrage for clicks. And I was the disposable prop she used to fuel her account. Then I blinked. And I was back at the exact moment she walked in. Same doorway. Same faded jacket. Same 6 kids trailing behind her like shadows, thin and tired looking. Same phone in her hand, ready to turn my life into content. Only this time, I didn't freeze. I didn't flinch. I walked right up with the biggest smile I could force onto my face, like I was welcoming an old friend. "You made it," I said brightly. "Come on in. Bring the little ones. Grab a seat." Brenda stopped short, like she'd run into a wall. I could practically see her mental scripts: version A, rude owner, cue tears. Version B, discrimination, cue outrage. Version C, poor mom humiliated, cue viral sympathy. But she hadn't prepared for the red carpet treatment. "Ah. Boss?" she started. "Don't even mention it," I cut in warmly, already pushing 2 tables together so all 7 of them could sit. "Customers are family here." I set out 7 glasses of hot water. "Drink up. Warm yourselves up." The kids stared at the cups like they weren't sure they were allowed. Brenda's suspicion flickered, then melted into something else. "Greed." She cleared her throat and slipped into her role anyway. "We're tight on cash. We just want 1 bowl. The cheapest plain broth noodles you got." She dug around in her pocket for an exaggerated amount of time, like she wanted the whole room to notice, and finally slapped a crumpled $10 bill onto the table. I took it with a grin. Perfect. 1 plain bowl coming right up. Then I went to the back office instead of the stove. I adjusted my security cameras, small, careful tweaks, until Brenda's table was framed perfectly. Clear view. Sharp angle. No blind spots. After that, I cooked the noodles like I was filming a commercial. I carried the bowl out steaming hot and set it down gently. "Here we go. Fresh and ready." Brenda snatched the chopsticks. And then she did exactly what she did last time, she ate the entire bowl herself in seconds while her kids stared. "Refill," she demanded, already loud. "Coming right up," I said pleasantly. One refill. Then another. Then another. I didn't hesitate once. I didn't sigh. I didn't roll my eyes. I didn't give her a single second of the frustration she was hunting. By the time she hit her 10th bowl, she'd set up her phone on a tripod and started filming openly, her gaze darting to my face every time she spoke, waiting for the moment I cracked. I didn't crack. I smiled like a saint carved out of porcelain. Other diners started whispering. Old Hank, the sanitation guy who always came in after his route, looked at me with concern and leaned over. "Hey, boss. You know she's..." I gave him a tiny shake of my head, still smiling. "Don't worry, Hank." Then I added, softly, just for him. "Let her perform." By the 19th bowl, Brenda realized I wasn't biting. So she tried a different angle, one that would set me up later. She looked into her camera, put on a brave, emotional face, and said sweetly, "Guys. The owner here is actually so kind. We've eaten so much and she hasn't complained once. We're really lucky to meet a good person when we're struggling." I almost laughed. That was her trick, build me up first. Make me look like a hero. That way, if I showed even the tiniest bit of irritation later, the contrast would make me look monstrous. It would turn the internet into a mob again, only louder this time. So I leaned into it. I raised my voice so the whole shop could hear and said, "I opened this place so people can get a hot meal. As long as my doors are open, nobody goes hungry." A few customers actually cheered. Someone clapped. Brenda's smile twitched. She didn't want a heartwarming story. She wanted war. Her eyes darted around, calculating, searching for the next pressure point. Then she found it. "Boss," she said, all syrupy. "You're a saint. But just noodles don't really stick, you know? Since you're such a good person, maybe you could add some meat sauce for the kids. Just a little." In my last life, this is where I said no. This is where she detonated. This time, I nodded like it was the easiest request in the world. "Of course," I said. "No problem at all." I went back to the kitchen and scooped up a generous ladle of rich, savory meat sauce, the kind I usually reserved for paying customers, and poured it over a fresh bowl until the noodles disappeared beneath it. I carried it out and set it down with a gentle smile. "Here," I said kindly. "Let the kids get something hearty." Brenda went quiet. All the nasty lines she'd prepared jammed in her throat at once. For a second, she stared at me like she couldn't decide if I was naive, crazy, or both. Around her, people were murmuring again, but not with pity this time. "Man. The owner's got a good heart. Not many people like that left." Brenda heard them. Her face shifted, tight, unsettled, almost panicked. Because she didn't need praise. She needed outrage. But the more she tried to pull, the more I gave. And the more I gave, the worse her plan looked. She kept going anyway, stubborn and hungry for a payoff. 20th bowl. 25th. 30th. By then, the kids were slumped in their chairs, looking queasy and exhausted. Brenda's breathing had turned shallow. Her posture was rigid, like she was forcing herself to stay upright out of sheer pride. She wasn't satisfied. Not because she wasn't full, she was clearly beyond full. She was furious because her little performance wasn't working. She'd gotten a mountain of food, and still she was losing. She couldn't turn me into a villain no matter how hard she tried. Finally, she shoved her chair back, muttered a quick, clipped thanks, and herded the kids toward the door like she was fleeing a burning building. I stood in the doorway, my smile still in place, watching her hurry down the sidewalk. Only when she was gone did I let my cheeks relax. They ached from holding that expression so long. Brenda thought she'd come in, press a button, and watch my life collapse for her content. But this time? I'd been given the rarest gift in the world, a redo. And I wasn't going to waste it. I watched her disappear around the corner and whispered, so quietly only I could hear. "You think this is over?" "No, Brenda. The show is just getting started." The moment the door shut, the shop exhaled. The chatter returned in cautious waves, like everyone had been holding their breath through a storm and wasn't sure it had truly passed. Hank shuffled up to the counter, rubbing the back of his neck the way he always did when he was worried. "Boss," he said gently, "you lost your mind today? That woman. She was using you." I poured him a cup of hot broth the way I always did, extra green onion floating on top, because he liked it that way, and slid it across the counter like it was nothing. "Hank," I said, still smiling, "I know exactly what she was doing." He stared at me, confused. And I didn't explain further. Not out loud. Because what I needed first wasn't sympathy. It was proof. When the last customer finally left and the chairs were flipped onto the tables, I locked the front door and went straight to the back office. My hands moved fast, steady, like they belonged to a different version of me, one who'd already learned what hesitation costs. I saved every second of the security footage. Not just the refills. Not just her tripod. The whole timeline, her entering, her face, the kids' expressions, the way she kept checking her phone like she was monitoring engagement in real time. I made copies. 2 flash drives. One hidden where no one would think to look. One tucked into my purse like a heartbeat. Then I did what I hadn't done in my last life, until it was too late. I opened TikTok. Brenda's account was right where I remembered it, except in this life, she wasn't Brenda. She was 6 blessed mama, and her profile was a shrine to manufactured suffering. Hundreds of videos, all cut from the same mold, cramped rental rooms, sad piano music, captions about a mother doing her best, the kids lined up like props, and then, right in the middle, an ad link, a shopping cart, a support my journey donation button. The comments were a flood of pity. "You're so strong. You're an angel." I cried watching this. Single moms deserve the world. And anytime someone asked a real question, "Why do the kids look so exhausted? Why are you always filming? Why do you never show school?" Those comments got attacked until they disappeared. 1 million followers. 1 million people trained to defend her. My stomach turned, not from the food, but from how familiar it all felt. Then I clicked her newest upload. Posted 30 minutes ago. It was my shop. But not the truth. Her edit made it look like a heartwarming miracle, me smiling, her kids eating, warm music swelling like a movie soundtrack. The title was pure poison wrapped in a bow. "Real kindness still exists, $10 fed my 7 kids until we were full. Thank you, Angel Noodle Lady." And beneath it, pinned at the top like a target? My address. My little shop in the old district, suddenly presented to the internet like a treasure hunt. The comment section was already buzzing. "I'm going tomorrow to support. Drop the menu. Let's make this place famous. We should test it, see if it's really unlimited. Stream it. I want to see if she's legit." I could see the next move like it was written in neon. This wasn't praise. It was a setup. Brenda's sweet video was the first stage of her trap: build me up, make me look like a saint, then send a mob of strangers to check me. And the second I couldn't keep up, because no small shop can keep up with a viral stampede, she filmed the chaos and flipped the narrative. "Look," she'd say, wide-eyed into her camera, "she changed. Fame got to her. She's not kind anymore." And the internet would do what it always does. It would punish me for being human. My fingers hovered over the call button for the police, and then stopped. What would I even say? An influencer posted a flattering video and now I'm scared? They'd tell me to block her. To ignore the comments. To stay offline. They wouldn't understand that this kind of thing doesn't stay online. Not when there's money behind it. Not when there's a company feeding the machine. I stared at my reflection in the dark window of my office and felt the old fear creep up, cold, familiar, eager to take its place in my chest. Then I did something else. Something I'd never dared to do in my last life. I said, very softly, to the empty room. If the law can't touch her for being cruel, then I'll beat her at her own game. The next morning, at 8 a.m., I rolled up my metal shutter. And found a crowd already waiting. Phones were raised like weapons. Selfie sticks. Ring lights. People shoulder to shoulder, spilling down the sidewalk like a parade that forgot it was supposed to be joyful. Are you the noodle lady? Someone shouted. Say hi. Another voice yelled. Where live? A young guy with bleached hair shoved his camera inches from my face, eyes glittering with the kind of hunger that had nothing to do with food. Guys, he announced loudly into his phone, we're at the viral $10 unlimited noodle spot. Let's see if she's really about that life or if she's fake. Behind him, others laughed. Some people looked sincere, like they truly came to support a small business. But more of them had that same greedy shine Brenda had. The let's get something free shine. The let's catch her slipping shine. I forced my smile back into place, even as my stomach nodded. Welcome, I called, loud enough for everyone to hear. Don't push. We'll get you seated. Everyone will eat. That line tasted like metal in my mouth. Inside, the shop filled in minutes. Orders flew at me like stones. Plain bowl. Refill. Where's my noodles? Hey. We've been waiting 5 minutes. I moved like I was made of springs, boiling, draining, refilling, carrying bowls, wiping spills, answering cameras with a pleasant nod. My arms started to ache by the second hour. By noon, my back felt like someone had poured concrete into it. The bleached hair streamer leaned back in his chair, chewing slowly for his audience. We're on our 10th refill, he bragged into the camera. But the owner's falling behind. Kinda seems like she can't handle it. Is she playing us? His friend laughed and chimed in, loud enough for half the shop to hear. Yesterday 6 blessed mama got 30 bowls with 6 kids. We're just a couple dudes and she's already struggling. What's up, boss? You losing patience? I walked over with a full steaming bowl and set it down gently. I'm sorry you had to wait, I said sweetly. It's a big crowd today. Here you go, fresh and hot. The streamer blinked, caught off guard by my calm. His chat, I could see it reflected in his screen, was brutal. Eat it. Don't waste food. You wanted the test, do the test. Stop talking and chew. So he did. He kept eating because he didn't want to look weak in front of his followers. And I kept smiling because I didn't want to give him anything. By the time night fell, I had served over 300 customers. Refills? Over 1,000 bowls. My pantry looked like a battlefield, empty containers, scraped pots, the last of the scallions gone. When I finally locked the door at 10 p.m., I slid down into a chair and just sat there, staring at my hands like they belonged to someone else. I had lost money. A lot of it. But I hadn't lost the thing that mattered. Not yet. Hank came back near closing to help me clear the tables. He didn't eat. He just wiped, stacked, swept, his jaw tight with worry. This can't go on, he said quietly. They're going to eat you into the ground. I reached into my drawer and pulled out a thick envelope. Here, I said, handing it to him. His eyes widened. What's this? Take it to the orphanage on the west side tomorrow morning, I told him, my voice gentle. Donated in my name. He opened it and went pale. Boss. His hands shook. This is a lot of money. He looked at my empty shelves, the exhausted slump of my shoulders. You lost money today, he whispered. Why would you? Because, I said softly, I meant what I said. I opened this place so people can eat. I can't let clout chasers twist that into something ugly. Hank stared at me like he didn't know whether to call me kind or crazy. Then, finally, he nodded. Slow. Heavy. All right, he said hoarsely. I'll do it. After he left, I locked the door again, turned off the lights, and opened my laptop. Then I started cutting video. Not the pretty kind Brenda made. The real kind. I stitched together the whole day, the crowd, the live streamers bragging about free refills, the tests, the sneers, the way people demanded more and more like it was their right. I cut in the moments where my smile wavered, not from anger, but from exhaustion. I cut in the way I kept moving anyway. And then I included the final scene, Hank holding the envelope, my voice saying, clear and calm, donated in my name. A neat little story. A perfect contrast. Because here's the truth, if someone wants to build you into a saint just to tear you down, you don't argue. You show receipts. When the video was finished, I uploaded it, just not on my own account. I sent it to someone who could actually move the needle. A creator known for exposing scams. A guy with millions of followers. A man people called Big Ray because he didn't just review restaurants, he broke con artists. I attached my message. Everything that happened. My saved security footage. Brenda's edited TikTok. The crowds. The tests. The envelope scene. Then I waited. I didn't sleep well that night, but the first dream I had in days was almost sweet. Because deep down, I knew. If Big Ray spoke up, Brenda wouldn't be able to dance her way out of it. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A reply. Big Ray, this is disgusting. I'm posting tomorrow. We're ending her. I stared at that message until my eyes stung. And for the first time since I'd opened my eyes in this second life, I let myself believe. Maybe this time, I wouldn't be the one left bleeding on the floor. Maybe this time, the internet would be used for what it was supposed to be. Truth. Day 2, I opened early. I'd prepped 3 times the ingredients. I'd hired 2 older ladies from the neighborhood to help, fast hands, sharp eyes, no nonsense. The crowd was still there, but I was ready. When they yelled refill, the bowls kept coming. When they complained, I apologized sweetly. When they tried to bait me, I smiled harder. By afternoon, the live streamers were frustrated for a different reason, they couldn't find a crack. And then, just when the shop finally started to thin, she walked in. Not alone. This time, Brenda had makeup done perfectly, a nicer outfit and a bright, practiced glow on her face. Behind her trailed 3 men carrying cameras, microphones, a whole production set up like she was arriving for an award show. She held something red and gold in her hands. A banner. She pushed it into my arms before I could even step back. Boss, she announced loudly, so every camera could catch it, we meet again. Her crew swung their lenses toward us. The banner read, kindness still lives, warm noodles, warm heart. Brenda beamed at the shop full of strangers. I'm here today, she continued, voice syrupy, to thank you. Ever since my video went viral, your business has been booming, right? She laughed like we were friends. Honestly, she said, tilting her head, you should thank me. I helped everyone see what a good person you are. The room shifted. People whispered. Some nodded, like her words made sense. I felt the old anger rise, hot, sharp, dangerous. Because this was her new angle. If she couldn't destroy me by making me look cruel, she'd devour me another way, take credit for my kindness, position herself as the reason I succeeded, and keep squeezing my story for content until there was nothing left. I opened my mouth. And a voice cut through the shop like a siren. Thanked her? Head snapped toward the doorway. A broad-shouldered man in a baseball cap walked in holding a selfie stick, his phone already live streaming. His eyes were hard, focused, almost calm in the way storms can be calm before they hit. Thank you for what? He said, loud and clear. For dragging a small business owner into your scam? For using kids like props? The chat on his screen flew so fast it looked like rain. Brenda's face drained of color so quickly it was almost impressive. Who are you? She snapped, voice cracking. The man turned his camera slightly so the viewers could see her clearly. Hey everyone, he said, voice steady. It's Big Ray. And today we're exposing one of the nastiest setups I've seen all year. Brenda's smile twitched like it wanted to run away. Big Ray stepped closer, eyes locked on her. Brenda, he said. Not your real name, by the way. 32. Not married. No kids. A ripple of shock moved through the shop. Brenda jerked forward like she wanted to grab his phone. Shut up. She screeched. You can't just say that. Big Ray didn't flinch. He tapped his screen, and a video started playing, right there in the middle of my noodle shop, for everyone to hear. A woman appeared on the screen, exhausted, trembling, eyes red like she'd cried until there was nothing left. My son isn't her child, the woman said, voice shaking. They offered money. They said it was just for filming. $200 for one day. I didn't know they were going to use him to lie to people. A hush fell so deep I could hear the kitchen clock ticking. The woman swallowed hard. Please. Please don't punish my son. He didn't do anything. We needed help. I just want my baby back. Brenda made a strangled sound. No, she hissed, eyes wild. That's fake. That's fake. She lunged for one of the kids at her side, one small boy with hollow cheeks and tired eyes, the one who always stood front center in her videos. Tell them, she demanded, gripping his shoulder too tight. Tell them I'm your mom. The boy recoiled like her touch burned. He pulled away, eyes wide with fear. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't staged. It was the raw, instinctive flinch of a child who knew adults could be dangerous. That single movement did more damage than any speech ever could. The room erupted. What the hell? Those kids aren't hers? That's sick. Using children for money like that, are you serious? Brenda's camera crew stepped in fast, faces hard, trying to shut it down. Turn that off, one of them barked at Big Ray. You can't film here. You're violating privacy. Another reached for his phone. End the live stream, he snapped. Or we'll sue. Big Ray shifted, one sharp step, and blocked them with his body like a wall. Touch me, he said calmly, and I call the cops and tell them you tried to assault me on camera. They hesitated. Because cameras don't just catch lies. They catch consequences. Brenda's breathing turned ragged. Then she did what she always did when she couldn't control the story. She threw herself on the floor. Right there between two tables, she dropped like a puppet with cut strings, wailing loud enough to rattle the windows. I didn't do anything wrong. She screamed, pounding the tile with her fists. I'm just trying to survive. You people hate women. You're bullying me. It was the ugliest performance yet, because now everyone could see it for what it was. A tantrum. A trap. A last desperate grab for sympathy. And this time, it didn't land. Big Ray kept the camera on her, letting the world watch. Within hours, the clips spread everywhere. Not Angel Noodle Lady anymore. Now the headlines were brutal. Influencer faked 6 kids. Viral single mom scam exposed. McKen Company renting children for content. Her account disappeared. Sponsors vanished. People who used to call her brave now called her what she'd always been. A thief. I watched one shaky bystander video where Brenda was dragged out of my shop by men from her own team, her banner crumpled in her hands, her face twisted with panic. And for the first time since I'd been reborn, I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I'd survived the first wave. But even as my chest loosened, a colder thought settled in. Brenda wasn't the one who killed me in my last life. She was the match. The fire was something bigger. A company that built scams like an assembly line. A machine that didn't care who got crushed. For 2 days after the expose, nothing happened. Too quiet. My shop returned to normal, almost. People still came, but their eyes were different now. They didn't demand. They didn't test. They ate a bowl, smiled, and when they asked for a refill, they did it politely, like they understood what unlimited was supposed to mean. Some even paid for the second bowl anyway. Hank brought back a thank you letter from the orphanage and a donation receipt, and we taped it to the wall near the register. Customers read it in silence. Then they'd leave cash on the counter with a soft nod, like it was their way of saying, "We see you." It should have felt like victory. Instead, my nerves stayed tight. Because storms don't always announce themselves with thunder. Sometimes they come with silence first. One night, after closing, I was wiping down the counter when the bell over the door chimed. I looked up and froze. Big Ray stood there, alone. No selfie stick. No live stream. No showman grin. Just a serious face and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. "Boss," he said quietly, "can we talk?" I poured him hot water and set it in front of him. My hands felt clumsy suddenly. "What's wrong?" I asked. He took a slow sip, then leaned forward. "I didn't just look into Brenda," he said. I looked into the company behind her. My stomach dropped. He nodded once, grim. They're worse than I thought. It's not just influencer management. They've got other businesses. Gray stuff. Predatory loans. Threat tactics. People who collect money the old-fashioned way. A chill slid down my spine. Big Ray's voice lowered. One of their investors goes by Dragon. Real name buried. Street history. Keeps guys around who don't mind getting their hands dirty. My mind flashed, sharp and cruel, to boots on tile and laughter in my ears. I gripped the edge of the counter. Big Ray exhaled, eyes heavy. I came to warn you. They know who I am. They found my address. Someone tagged my house last night. I stared at him, throat tight. If someone with millions of followers had to worry, what chance did I have? For a heartbeat, despair tried to crawl back into me, whispering the same old lie. It doesn't matter what you do. They'll still win. But then another thought cut through it, bright, furious, alive. Ray, I said slowly, leaning forward, you mentioned loans. He blinked. Yeah. Illegal loans, I pressed. Collections. Threats. He nodded again. That's what I heard. I don't have hard proof yet. A plan formed in my head so fast it scared me. Not because it was clever. Because it was the kind of plan you only make when you're done being afraid. I lowered my voice. What if we make them come to us? I whispered. What if we force them to move? On camera. Where the police can't ignore it. Big Ray studied me, eyes narrowing. You're thinking bait, he said. I'm thinking trap, I corrected softly. He went quiet. Then, after a long moment, he nodded once, slow and solid. All right, he said. Tell me what you need. My plan was simple. And dangerous. Big Ray would post a new video accusing the company, by name, of being involved in predatory lending and violent collection tactics. He wouldn't claim he had every detail. He'd say he was investigating. Then, at the end, he'd make an announcement. This Friday night, he'd say, at 8 p.m., I'm going live from the noodle shop. I'll reveal the evidence. It would be a lie. We didn't have the evidence. Not yet. But the company wouldn't know that. All they'd hear was, exposure is coming. And if there's one thing people like them hate more than being caught, it's being humiliated. I didn't tell the police, I'm about to be attacked. I didn't say the words out loud, because saying them felt like inviting fate. I just quietly contacted the right department and reported something that made sense on paper. Suspicious individuals watching my business. Possible attempted break-in. Safety concerns due to online harassment. I gave them dates. Times. Screenshots. Enough to justify attention. Friday came. All day, my smile stayed in place, but inside I was counting down. 7 p.m. I served the last customer and locked the door early. 7:15, Big Ray arrived, jaw tight, shoulders tense. You ready? He asked. I nodded and pointed toward the kitchen, where I'd installed small hidden cameras, angles that caught the front door, the windows, the alley. Tonight, I said softly, we let them think they're the hunters. We sat in the darkened shop and waited. 7:50. Then. Footsteps in the alley. Fast. Heavy. Multiple. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard it hurt. A fist hammered the door. Then another. A voice barked through the metal like a threat made solid. Open up. The sound alone yanked me straight back into my last life. Big Ray's hand shook slightly near his phone. The pounding grew louder. Something scraped against the lock, metal on metal, slow and vicious. They were trying to force their way in. I held my breath, waiting for the moment the door would give. And then. Blue lights flooded the alley. Sirens exploded into the night. Police, someone shouted. Don't move. The shop went still in stunned silence. Even me. Because this wasn't how I'd planned it. I'd planned to let them break something first, to make the charges clearer. I hadn't expected the police to already be there. Outside, voices rose. Orders barked. The clatter of objects hitting pavement. Men swearing, then going quiet. A knock came at my door, firm, official. I unlocked it with hands that didn't feel like mine. A line of officers stood outside, flashlights cutting through the dark. "We're with the city's organized crime unit," a tall officer said. "We received a tip that a violent crew was planning an attack here tonight." I blinked. "I didn't call tonight." He smiled faintly. "No. You didn't." Then, behind him, someone stepped forward. A familiar shuffle. A familiar face. Hank. Only Hank wasn't wearing his sanitation jacket. He was wearing a crisp uniform. He stood with his hands behind his back, posture straight, eyes warm with something that looked a lot like apology. "Boss," he said gently, "long time no see." My brain stopped working. "Hank?" I breathed. He smiled, almost sheepish. "I should have told you," he said quietly. "But I couldn't." "Not then?" The tall officer stepped aside, letting him fully into view. Hank, my Hank, wasn't just a sanitation worker. He was Captain Wang. Detective Division. And the whole time I'd been refilling his broth, he'd been watching. Not me. Them. Captain Wang looked at me with steady respect. "That company," he said, voice calm, "we've been tracking them for a long time. They're careful. They hide behind contracts and influencers and clean paperwork." He nodded toward the alley, where officers were cuffing men who looked exactly like the kind of men who'd ended my last life. "We needed a breakthrough," he continued. "Something we could use to crack open the rest." His eyes softened. "And then you got targeted." I swallowed hard. "The donation. The envelope." His mouth curved slightly. "The moment you asked me to take money to the orphanage," he said, "I knew you weren't just kind. You were stubborn. The best kind of stubborn." My throat tightened. He spoke gently, like he knew my knees might give out. "You thought you and Big Ray were setting a trap," he said. "And you did." He glanced toward the officers outside. "But you weren't alone in it." I stared at him, stunned. Captain Wang's expression turned serious again. "Go home," he said firmly. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow morning. Check the news." The next morning, sunlight slid through the shutter cracks like it was painting the world new. I picked up my phone with shaking fingers. And there it was. Headline after headline. The company's offices raided. The Dragon investor arrested. Charges listed like an avalanche: organized intimidation, illegal lending, extortion, fraud, violence tied to collection crews. Footage showed men being led out in cuffs, faces hard, finally exposed. And in one clip, brief, almost lost in the chaos, I saw the 6 children from Brenda's videos being guided toward social workers, wrapped in blankets, safe. My lungs filled like I'd been holding my breath for a lifetime. I opened the shop that morning, and the air felt different. Still the same old district. Still the same worn sidewalk. Still the smell of broth and scallions and steam. But something had shifted. Like the city had washed itself clean overnight. My regulars came in quietly. Construction workers. Seniors. Folks with tired eyes and honest hands. They didn't ask for drama. They ordered their bowls, ate, and when they finished, they left money on the table with a small smile. A young guy approached the counter afterward, scratching his head like he was embarrassed. "Ah. Can I get a refill?" he asked. I smiled, the kind of smile that didn't hurt my cheeks. "Of course," I said. "As long as you've got room. I'll make sure you're full." He nodded, then pulled another 10 out of his pocket and pressed it into my palm. "No," he said seriously. "Your kindness isn't something we should treat like it's owed." My eyes stung. That night, as the sun faded, Captain Wang came in wearing regular clothes again, simple jacket, old cap, the same calm face. He sat in his usual seat like nothing in the world had changed. "Plain broth noodles," he said, smiling. "Extra scallions." I set the bowl down in front of him, steam curling up like a blessing. The light through the front window caught the surface of the broth and turned it gold. And for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I felt it, deep in my bones, undeniable. This time, my shop wasn't just surviving. My life wasn't just restarting. This time, the future finally looked like something I could reach.